Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Metzia, page 39b, top of the page, with the words Afilu Higdil. And even if one continues to occupy the field after the minor reached majority, he does not assume presumptive ownership, as perhaps the minor was unaware that he is the field's owner. The Gemara comments, and we said only in the case of paternal brothers that the court does not authorize a relative to descend and manage the property of a minor, as they are potential heirs. But in the case of maternal brothers, we have no problem with it, as they are not potential heirs. And in the case of paternal brothers, we said that the court does not authorize a relative only with regard to land, but in the case of houses, we have no problem with it, as there are neighbors who can testify that the house does not belong to those brothers. And with regard to land, too, we said that it is only in a case where the minor's father did not draft a document of division of the property that the court does not authorize a relative. But in the case where the minor's father drafted a document of division, it generates publicity, and everyone knows which portion belongs to each of the brothers. The Gemara concludes, but this is not so. As there is no difference whether they are paternal brothers, and there is no difference whether they are maternal brothers. It is no different whether it is land, and it is no different whether it is houses. And it is no different whether he drafted a document of division, and it is no different whether he did not draft a document of division. We do not authorize a relative to descend and manage the property of a minor, to avoid that relative being regarded as the owner of the property. The Gemara relates, there was a certain old woman who had 3 daughters. She and 1 daughter were taken captive. Of the other 2 daughters, 1 died and left behind a minor son. Abaye said, what should we do in this case with the property of the old woman? If one suggests, let us establish the property in the possession of the surviving sister, that is problematic. There is a concern that perhaps the old woman died in captivity, and if the old woman died, the minor inherits 1/3 of her property. And the court does not authorize a relative to descend and manage the property of the minor. If one suggests, let us establish the property in the possession of the minor, that is also problematic. There is a concern that perhaps the old woman did not die, and the court does not authorize a minor to descend and manage the property of a captive. Abaye said, consequently, half of the property is given to the surviving sister. If the captives died, she is the inheritor of half the property. If the captives are alive, this is a case where the court authorizes a relative to descend and manage the property of a captive. And for the other half of the property, we establish a steward on behalf of the minor. And it is conceivable that he inherited the property. Bava said, once we appoint a steward for half the property, we appoint a steward for the other half of the property, and it remains under his stewardship until the state of the captives becomes known. Ultimately, they heard that old woman died, and they did not hear the fate of the captive daughter. Abaye said, we give 1/3 of the property to the surviving daughter, and we give 1/3 of the property to the minor, as he inherits it from his grandmother by virtue of his deceased mother. And of the 1/3 of the property which belongs to the captive sister, whose fate is unknown, we give 1/6 to the surviving sister, Danka, 1/6 to the surviving sister, and for the other 1/6, we appoint a steward on behalf of a minor. Or perhaps the sister died and the property is his. Rava said, once we appoint a steward for the 1/6 of the property, we also appoint a steward for the other 1/6 of the property until the fate of the captive sister is known. The Gemara relates that Mari bar Isaac, who was a wealthy and powerful man, had a brother whom he did not previously know, come to him from Bechozai, which was distant from central Babylonia. His brother said to him, "Divide the property that you inherited from our father and give half to me, as I am your brother." Mari said to him, "I do not know who you are." The case came before Rav Chisda. He said to the brother, "Mari bar Isaac spoke well to you, as it is stated, and Joseph knew his brothers, and they knew him not." Genesis 42:8. This teaches that Joseph left Eretz Israel without the trace of a beard, and he came with the trace of a beard. This proves that it is possible for brothers not to recognize each other. Mari bar Isaac may be telling the truth when he claims he does not recognize you. Rav Chisda said to the brother, "Go bring witnesses that you are his brothers." The brother said to him, I have witnesses, but they fear Mari bar Isaac because he is a violent man." Rav Chisda said to Mari bar Isaac, "You go bring witnesses that he is not your brother." Mari bar Isaac said to him, "Is this halacha? Isn't there a principle in these cases that the burden of proof rests upon the claimant?" Rav Chisda said to him, "This is the way I judge you and all of your fellow violent people." Mari bar Isaac said to him, "Ultimately, if that is your concern, witnesses will come, and they will not testify in his favor. They will lie and testify in my favor." Rav Chisda said to him, "They will not perform two wrongs. They will not refrain from telling the truth and also testify falsely." Ultimately, witnesses came and testified that the person from Bechozai was his brother. At that point, the brother said to Mari bar Isaac, "Divide and give me half of the orchards and the gardens that you planted since the death of our father's well." Rav Chisda said to Mari bar Isaac, "He spoke well of you, as we learned in the Mishnah of Bava 143b. If one died and left adult and minor sons, and the adult sons enhanced the property, they enhance the property, and the profit should go to the middle." In other words, it is divided between the adult sons and the minor sons.